We're on Taharot Parak Bet, Mishnah Aleph. First Mishnah in the second chapter of Masachet Taharot. We're going to talk about touching something when your hands are shniyot, your hands are not clean, and they're considered, and whether it's wet or not. It says the Mishnah, Ha'isha shaita koveshet yarak b'kedera. A woman who's like, kavush is salting, so she's preparing pickles. She's pickling vegetables in a pot. Yummy. Okay, you want to pickle, you have cabbage and cucumbers and kohlrabi. And she's koveshet yarek, okay, isha Torah, she's Torah, and she's koveshet yarak shel Terumah in a kedera, in a pot. She works in a Kohen's house. He got all these vegetables. That's how they would preserve them. They would pickle it all, and then that would last for a long time. V'naga ba'aleh, v'naga, but her hands, okay. And what do you do? The Bartenura says, how do you pickle? What you do is when you pickle, you cut the vegetables without liquid. Remember, vegetables, in order to become tamei, they have to be mukhshar lekabel tumah. They have to be prepared. How do they prepare? They get wet. So how do you pickle? You first cut off the vegetables, and you salt them. You put it in the pot or the jug. Then you add the liquid, the wine or the vinegar or the oil, and then the leaves become tamei tumah. Okay, and then she's going to touch them with the yadayim miso'avot, dirty hands. What he means is not washed hands. If you don't wash your hands, the reason we do netilat yadayim really when we wash the bread is because we're remembering when they had the time of the truma. It's really interesting that we still have this halacha that remains from the time of the Beit HaMikdash, that we did it in order to make sure our hands are tahor before we touch bread. That might be from Terumah, even though we're not Kohanim, whatever. It's all very interesting. That's the halacha. We do that, so our hands will not be miso'avot. Our hands will not be dirty, i.e. tamei. Why? Because tamei hands, yadayim miso'avot, they are tamei et Terumah. They make Terumah tamei. Now, she touched the leaf. If her hands were wet, the leaf was wet, gone. But nag'aba aleh, she touched the leaf. She's got this celery leaf hanging out, right? Chutz l'kedera, outside of the pot, b'makom anagu, in a dry spot. She touched the leaf. Now the leaf got wet. It's like wet at the bottom, but it's dry at the top. Now the leaf, even though it has a kibetza in it, the celery, the long piece of celery has a kibetza, and then why kibetza is important? Because it's big enough in order to transfer tamei, tuma. Hu tamei ve'akol tahor. The leaf is tamei, but the whole thing is tahor. The rest of the pot is tahor. Why is this true? Hu tamei ota'aleh. That leaf is tamei. V'hakol tahor. Shara yerek ve'amashkim. Just the leaf is tamei. The rest of the vegetables and the liquid is shebakadera. Why? Delo ati hai aleh. Shebemiksato kadera umitamei lehu. Right? Because it's this leaf that's partially in the pot. It's not going to be tamei everything. The adaim shniyot. The hands are shniyot. V'ha'aleh shlishi. So this the leaf, which is truma shlishi. Ve'ein shlishi oseh revi'i b'truma. And shlishi, there's no revi'i in tuma. Can't transfer the tuma. But okay, that's nag'a b'makom mashkeh. But if she touched in a place where there is mashkeh, if she touched where it's wet, then im yesh bo kibetza hakol tamei. If the celery leaf has a kibetza, then the whole thing is tamei. Ein bo kibetza. And if there is no kibetza, hu tamei ve'akol tahor. It is tamei, and the whole thing and the rest of the pot is tahor. Why? Because of the rule that we learned in the last Mishnah. Let's look at the Bartenura. Why is that naga if she touched with her hands, which are shniyot, b'makom mashkeh, where it's liquid, na'aseh mashkeh shalav tchila. That's what we learned. Remember, the liquid becomes like a rishon. Because we said, D'chol posel et truma mitamei mashkin liot tchila. If you're posel truma, then you're mitamei the liquid. The hands are sheni. They can be possibly truma, which is shlishi. So she makes the liquid rishon. V'amashke oset ala sheni. The mashke makes it a sheni. And therefore, when it's kibetza, it's mitamei la'acheru. It can make the whole thing tamei. Hakol tamei akder atzmo. The mixat alesha b'kteira, because part of the leaf in the kteira, osem mashkesha b'kteira tchila. There's liquid in the pot, and they make the whole pot. Then the whole thing is gone. Okay, so if you touch the wet, okay, if she touches the wet, then if there's a kibetza, hakol tamei, the whole thing is a tamei. If there's no kibetza, hu tamei ve'akol tahor, it is tamei, and then the whole thing is tahor. Because it's not big enough. Then it's because it's not big enough to transfer tuma. It's not a kibetza. Chazal the kedeira, but if you put it back in the pot, hakol tamei, then it's wet. Then it touches the wet, and the whole thing is tamei. Haita magat tamei mate V'naga, if her it was a magat meimet. Now, it's not her hands are sheni, but rather she was magat meimet. She touched an av. Meimet is an av, so she's a rishon. And then she touched the leaf. Whether she touched in a wet place or whether she touched in a dry place, if it's the size of a kibetza, the whole pot is tameh. Ein bo kibetza. If there's not a betza, hu tameh v'hakol tahor. She is then the pot, then the leaf is tameh, and the whole thing is tahor. It's not her hands are shniyot. She's a rishon. She makes the leaf the sheni. So therefore, if it's kibetza, then it transfers the whole thing hakol tameh. There's all truma. Remember, if there's no kibetza, it's tameh, and it can't transfer because it's not big enough. Hayta tvulat yom. She's a tvulat yom. She went to the mikvah and she has to wait till the night. Erev shemesh. So she went to the mikvah. Okay, but her hands are shniya. Okay, and she shakes the thing. And she sees liquid on her hands. It's a fake minak deira nidzu. It's unclear whether it splashed on her from the kdeira. And she's afraid maybe this piece of celery, the stalk, touched her hand. So now what? It's a safek whether her shniyot hands touched the wet or not. Hayarak pasul, then in that case, because of safek, the vegetables are pasul, vakdeiratara, but we don't make the whole thing. Tahor. All right, we'll stop here. Dedicate our learning to remember my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Make it a great day.